What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Detroit Lions offensive lineman Big V in today's video. Big V, what is his role going to be next season? Let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're talking about some Big V in today's video. No, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name correctly because I will fail. So I'm just going to stick with Big V. All right? You know who I'm talking about. We all know who we're talking about here, okay? All right, no jokes. It's just Big V. That's it. We're leaving right there. So we're talking about Big V in today's video. So after the Michigan basketball game, pretty much the rest of the day, I've just watched Big V. That's it. I mean, that's all I've done. And the reason I did that is because, you know, I have these assumptions and how I think I feel about him, but I really wanted to go back and watch his games to get a clear vision on how I actually feel about this guy heading into the offseason, depending on what the Lions are going to do with him or what they might bring in. I want a clear feel on how I actually feel about this player because I feel like it's probably super blurred. Like, yeah, I can remember certain big moments where he gave up big plays, and I'm like, okay, he's terrible from that, but I really just don't remember it that well. I mean, when you're in the midst of the games, you're watching week by week by week, I'm not paying that much attention to the offensive line, honestly. Unless there's injuries, I'm really not paying attention. You know, during the game, you're kind of in the moment, and I really never recapped the offensive line. So I never really had a great feel on how Big V actually did last season. I know he missed time, which he did. He only played in 10 games. He missed the first 2 weeks of the season. He had dehydration issues during the year, so he missed some time there. He was moved around from guard to right tackle. I know some things about him, but I didn't know it all. So I wanted to go back and watch him, and I got kind of hooked. So I started watching, well, every single game that he played in. And I got some takeaways from it on what I think the Lions could potentially try to do with him next season to a 5-year, $45 million deal, which is a lot of money, of course. And after watching his, film today, yeah, you could safely say that he didn't live up to that last season. He didn't live up to that big payday last season. It was kind of clear. But there are certain things about his game that I did notice that I didn't really know before. And there's certain issues with this game that continue to reoccur. And some ideas that I have on what the Lions could do with him next season. Now, because of the way his contract is set up, there's no guaranteed salary after this season, which means the Lions have an out after this year if they want to. So if you do cut him this season, a regular cut, you lose about over $4 million. So that's probably not an option. If it's supposed to in first cut, you would lose nothing, but you wouldn't gain anything either. So there's a good chance that he's going to be on the roster for at least this season. Now, he's only 28 years old, so he's not super old. The Lions could keep him around for longer if they wanted to because he is under contract, but this is probably going to be the year for new coaches for him to just prove himself, all right? Prove it in practice and prove it in games. Hey, can you be here for the long term with this team? Yes or no? So this will be his opportunity to prove it. But how can the Lions get the best out of Big V? That's the biggest question. So I went back to watch him. So you'll notice the first 2 games he didn't play. His first game comes against Arizona. Easy to have a really bad memory of a guy like Big V after that first game because he just played really bad. I mean, he was getting beat left and right. They put him at the right guard position, which I wasn't really expecting when we signed him. I thought he'd play tackle, but they put him at right guard, which I kind of think I have an idea on why they did that. But they put him at right guard, and he just really struggled. I mean, he was really, really bad against Arizona. There were some big plays they gave up, but ultimately the Lions did win the game, which was great, but it wasn't the best debut for Big V. So after that game, I was like, oh, wow, this is rough. However, there were just enough flashes as a swing tackle to now a run blocking right guard that I was hooked. I had to keep watching just to see if there was improvement here, just to see if he could keep building on what I saw. To Saints, I saw improvement, but there are a couple of things that started to reoccur week after week after week. Good things and bad things. Let me talk about the good things that I noticed. From through those games, what I noticed is the good side first. This guy is a mauler. Okay, he's the definition of a run-blocking mauler. He opened the biggest holes I've seen of any offensive lineman on our line. He occasionally could open gigantic holes that other offensive linemen couldn't do on our team. He had way more pancake blocks than I think anybody had. I don't know the numbers behind that, but I can almost guarantee who has the most pancake blocks for the Detroit Lions, I would bet on him, and he only played in 10 games. This guy was running guys into the dirt consistently. I mean, he was putting guys on their back in the run game. And there were a couple of things that I noticed about him that I think the Lions really liked. First thing that reminded me kind of about Try Turner. When I looked at Try Turner, when I was watching his film, I noticed that, yeah, he plays a guard spot. Well, what they like to do when he's at right guard is they like to swing him out. They like to swing him out for pass protection, but also in running plays as well, kind of like a swing tackle. And when we signed to Big V, he was a swing tackle. That's what he was known as. So well, from the guard position, the Lions would use Big V in that same way. They would swing him to the outside. And that was the guy that they could rely upon to go get a block in the open field to set up plays to the outside. They also relied upon him on screens. I saw a lot of similarities, I got to say, to Try Turner. Big reason that could be important is because Try Turner was brought in by a trade to the LA Chargers which Anthony Lynn was the head coach at the time. They wanted Try Turner, and they used him that way. I think Big V could be our Try Turner next season without having to actually go sign Try Turner, who was actually recently released. But then another thing I love is his stretch run blocking. I'm talking about getting this guy going sideways, okay, getting him running, taking out linebackers at the next level, defensive linemen, getting guys going to their side. He's got a lot of raw physical strength, and it was almost disrespectful at sometimes. I mean, he was just boom, just take him to the ground with it. And I was like, dude, there's no other offensive line on our team doing that as much as he is. I mean, Frank, hey, no disrespect, Frank, that dude's running people on the ground, but not like this guy. As a run blocker, this guy was tough. He was really tough as a run blocker. But then there was some issues with this game. His pass protection started off really bad, and I think it slightly started to improve as he became more aware of his surroundings. But one issue that kept coming up and up and up and up was against pass rushers on passing downs. The guy was just getting consistently beat on passing downs by speed rushers. He just couldn't keep up with him. He was late to react, or he would overextend to a certain spot, and that would get him out of position, and he would slip and fall. These are very similar if you watch my Try Turner video, right? A lot of similarities that I'm rattling off right here. And that's what I noticed is that, okay, in pass protection, early downs he was fine. I thought he was okay at handling his own against most early down defensive linemen in the inside, but it was those passing downs that really got the best of him. And of course, some of the better pass rushers he struggled with at times, like Grady Jarrett, things like that. But I mean, that's kind of expected, right? They're really good for a reason. Part of this is why you don't want to get behind chains, because it allows defense to do things like this. Get guards at a disadvantage by putting speed linebackers out there to get after him. Now, if Big V could get his hands on these guys, he could throw them into the ground. The issue was he wasn't able always to get them. They would just kind of take a long angle and they would get that bend to the outside, and he's not athletic enough to close that off. Those passing downs, he had trouble because he wasn't able to keep up. He just didn't show that quickness, that get off from the guard position to keep up with some of those guys. But remember, guard was kind of new to him. Like, he was a tackle before, more of a tackle before we signed him. So guard was a little bit different. So the Lions are playing him at guard, and that's what I noticed, all right? There was really good in run blocking with some inconsistencies coming with balance, slipping and falling. And as a pass protector, awareness improved, but he still wasn't great against speed pass rushers, and his technique needed work. Also, he wasn't always able to stay connected, run blocking and pass blocking, times where he would engage the initial contact, but then lose it. And this guy would get by him, and maybe they didn't always make a play, but they were able to get past him. So staying connected was also an issue. But then that brings me to the Colts game. So against the Indianapolis Colts, the Lions changed it up. They put him at right tackle. Now, initially, I was thinking, oh, there must have been an injury, right? Why is he playing right tackle? Now, they also did this against Jacksonville a little bit as well. They moved him over there, but we knew he could play this spot. I thought the Lions would probably play this spot for him before the year started. So they put him at right tackle against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, let's just say the Colts absolutely dominated the Detroit Lions offensive line. Like, it was terrible. That was, oh my goodness, it was bad. Jonah Jackson had his worst game up to that point as rookie. He allowed like 4 pressures or something. I mean, it was bad. Decker was struggling a little bit. Frank was out of position at times. Dahl was just, whoa, I don't know what was going on there. But the Lions really struggled in pass protection. However, Big V at right tackle, as weird as it may sound, he was pretty solid. Aside from one occasion where he did allow 1 sack to Autry. Yes, he did allow 1 sack in that game, where he was, again, beaten to the inside because of the quickness off the pass rush, where he still is just a little bit late too often. He looked more comfortable in pass protection. Now, sure, Stafford seemed like he was getting the ball a little bit quicker, but he definitely seemed more comfortable in pass protection at the right tackle position as opposed to the right guard position, where he seemed kind of lost. As the right tackle spot, he seemed a little bit more comfortable in pass protection. But the issue was, since they threw him at tackle, he was now less effective as a run blocker. I mean, sure, he had his moments. For a team that liked to run the ball between the tackles, when he was at the tackle position, he was way less impactful because now he wasn't swinging as a guard. He wasn't getting that push. Just less impactful. And you can see on this clip right here where he's at tackle. I mean, just look at this. I mean, this guy can run block. And because of that, the Lions didn't run the ball at all. The Lions literally had 8 rushing yards between Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift against the Colts. You don't believe me? Look it up. Swift on 6 carries had 1 yard. 1. And they moved Big V to right tackle. And I'm thinking, wow. I mean, if that doesn't tell you the impact that he was actually having on the ground game, I don't know what does. 8 yards between 2 running backs, that's terrible. They almost just went away from it at one point. Some of it's because they got down, so weren't able to be dominant in the run game. I don't know why the Lions did this necessarily, and I was thinking, okay, Crosby must have been hurt, but no. I think he went down with an injury, because later in the game, Crosby took over at right tackle near the end of the game. Crosby was healthy, but yet they went with Big V at right tackle instead. I think they were maybe just trying to mix it up, see if this was a better spot for him. And it didn't look bad. He actually, to me, in pass protection, looked way more comfortable, like he's done this before. But the run blocking was terrible for the Lions. I mean, they couldn't get anything going. So, Vikings, next game out, what do? They put him back at right guard. They move him back to right guard. And when they move him back to right guard, DeAndre Swift, against the Vikings, goes for nearly 5 yards per carry on 64 yards. Adrian Peterson puts up 29 yards. Kerryon Johnson puts up 29 yards. So Lions easily go over 100 yards rushing as a team. And by the way, when Big V was playing right tackle against the Colts, Stafford had over 300 yards passing. V is not perfect. He's got a lot of things to improve upon. But it was clear that he was a pretty important player for the Lions. He was just so inconsistent. He was like a very big playmaker that could give you some big splash plays, but he wasn't consistently making those plays, which caused problems. As a pass protector, right tackle, he looked way more comfortable. But they put him at guard because they wanted a run blocker. They wanted a Mauler, and he was opening holes because, look, Logan Stenberg never got the start. Now, the Lions drafted Logan Stenberg, right? I think the Lions' vision was thinking, okay, Jonah Jackson starts at guard. Logan Stenberg will be able to start at guard, help open this run game, and we'll be able to play right tackle, Big V. The issue was Logan Stenberg was never able to take over that right guard spot. He didn't even play. For whatever reason, I don't know why, he didn't even play last. He didn't even get activated. So what the Lions did was they put Big V instead at right guard. Big V played the right guard position. Now, when Joe Dahl was there, kind of the same thing, but he wasn't as good as Big V. He wasn't making the same big plays and impact plays that Big V could in the run game. Big V started to improve, but he still needs a lot of things to work on. He's a splashy player that can help you a lot in the run game, but still needs tons of work as the pass protector and just doesn't seem to look super comfortable as a guard pass protector, but looked better as the right tackle pass protector, but he was less impactful in the run game then, which to me looks like his best attribute. So the question is, what do you do with him next season? Well, like I said, next year's to me going to be a prove-it year for him. So I think what you can do with Big V is you got a couple of options. You either go guard or you go tackle. Now, of course, he's going to have to compete for these spots with whoever is here to win the role. But let's just assume he wins the role. Where do you put him? To me, if Logan Stenberg can win that guard position, then you could put Logan at guard, you could put Big V at right tackle, and I think that's fine. I think there's a reason the Lions, went with Big V over Crosby against the Colts when they mixed it up. They didn't say, hey, Big V, you're just not going to play. They said, no, we're going Big V over Crosby. They chose Big V over Crosby. The Lions, that was their plan in the offseason, was to do that. So if Logan can win that role, or they can get a guard to play that position and be a dominant run blocker, Big V may have an opportunity next season to be a right tackle. But he looks so dominant as a run blocker at guard, if you can continue to work with him, in this offseason he puts all his time into improving as a pass protector, then maybe he's better there. Because I think one issue with offensive linemen is if you continue to move offensive linemen around, it's hard to find consistency. They don't have consistency. It's a very different position. Every position is very different as an offensive lineman. And I think for him, playing guard, it was something, there was a clear learning curve there. He was learning, and it seemed like he improved every week. There were still flashes of him giving up plays. Everybody's going to. But he was slowly improving. However, injuries derailed the heck out of his season, and he was moved to right tackle at one point in the year to try that out. For the Lions, through the first 6 weeks of the season, they were graded out as the #1 run blocking offensive line in the league. #1 run blocking unit in the league. #1 through 6 weeks. Okay, now Big V missed the first 2 games, which means he was part of 3 of those games because there was a bye week. And through that time, he was in the top 20 of guards in terms of run blocking. Look at the end of the season. Why did that not continue? Well, Big V didn't play at the end of the season. Big V had injuries. Big V was placed on IR. Washington, he didn't play. Against the Panthers, he only played for a half, and then he was placed on IR after that. So he missed basically the end of the season for the Detroit Lions. But early in the season, they were the top run blocking unit. This team could block, according to Pro Football Focus. They just didn't have the best running back play behind it, which is why I want another running back. But either way, my point is that Big V was a very big part of this team's ability to run the football. And it clearly took a drop around the same times that Big V was now no longer on the football field. He was a big part of it. And Frank graded out really well. Decker graded out really well. They did well last season, but he also did his thing as a run blocker. But in pass protection, he was too inconsistent. That was the issue with the game. It kind of tells you by the numbers, right? The fact that he has a higher pass blocking grade than Try Turner and he gave up 6 sacks is crazy. How does that happen? Well, because one minute he'll make a beautiful play and the next he lets someone go right by him. That was his issue in pass protection and somewhat in run blocking as well, not always staying connected. He could pancake someone, but the next play he would get hold on him and then he'd slip and fall. He just needs more consistency as a player. But clearly he's an impact player. And it's just going to take a little bit of time. And hopefully next season, this offseason, he puts all his time in, he's working. Whatever they tell him he's going to be, he's putting in work, right? All this offseason, get after it. Stay healthy. Injuries stink. They really hurt your season. So get out there, be healthy. And if he can compete, he's going to have a shot to be and improve next season. Players, sometimes it takes him a minute to adjust, right? Guard was very new to him. I don't know what the Lions are going to do to him next season, but playing him all at guard was not exactly what I was expecting. Maybe not what he was expecting either. But it was a change. He had to improve. He had to get better. And it was clear that Arizona was his worst game. Big V, if you're going to put him at guard, you got to leave him at guard and let him be a guard. Let him continue to work on that through the offseason. Pass protection. Get quicker off the snap. Make sure you hold on to your blocks. Don't overextend. Continue to work with that. Pass protecting from guard is way different from tackle. It's a way different environment. And it's something that you could tell that even his first game, he looked lost. Like he didn't know where to be so many times. As time went on, he looked more improved. He had his hands, on guys. He was feeling everything out. He understood where he needed to be to a higher extent. He just still struggled a little bit. At tackle, he looked more comfortable, but he wasn't the dominant run-blocking specimen he is. He's kind of like a little bit of a tweener right now for the Lions that I think has a lot of high ceiling and potential that just needs to get a certain position. Either they say, hey, you're playing tackle or you're playing guard, and that's what you're going to work on in the offseason. Nothing wrong with practicing other spots, but I think they need to find a consistent spot for him. Doesn't mean he needs to start next season, but the odds are he's going to be here. And this is going to be his chance to prove that what he can do. So I think there is something that he can do. I think Big V could be here long term. If he gets an opportunity and he's able to stay healthy, if he can just stay at one spot consistently next season, maybe that's guard again, give him another season at guard. Maybe you continue to see that improvement throughout the offseason. Or maybe they go back to tackle and they find someone that can fill that guard spot, whether that's Logan or someone else. But I think because Logan never got able to tackle that role, they put him at guard to fill out that spot. 1 year left on his deal. Lots of comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.